The following video has been created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. Subscribing is optional. Now please, enjoy the show. Subject 1333 seems to have adjusted well to her new body. Her mind, however, seems to have been completely destroyed, as not only have all memories of her past been deleted, but also everything else. I have no doubt if she was left to her own devices, she'd turn into a full-on animal. Dr. Sir tilted his head. Something interesting started happening. Subject 1333 is showing interest in the various decorations placed in her cell. He watched as you picked up a fake rock and a plastic stick. The doctor's eyes narrowed. You slammed the fake rock on the ground, creating a rather harsh noise. Then you took the stick, hitting it on the floor as well. You nodded as you inspected them thoroughly, before shuffling over to the fake reed plants in your cell. That certainly is interesting. Subject 1333 has created a crude tool with the things in her enclosure. While barely usable and made out of rather useless plastic, it shows an instinctual, almost primeval creativity not observed by other failures of the Bigger Bodies project. I must admit, I am positively interested in further experiments with 1333. She might be useful after all. End of log. Sighing, Dr. Sir leaned back in his chair. Promising, yes. Smart, with higher brain functions. At least, more higher brain functions than expected. This one needed nurturing. A firm hand. This will be fun. You were a Fowler toy. Part of a collection called Beware Monsters. A group of monster-themed toys meant to be unconventional yet marketable. Fowler, according to her toy's description, was a reptilian swamp witch, sometimes referred to as simply hag. You had seaweed-colored slimy hair, olive-colored leathery skin, and webbing between your toes. Your eyes were sharp, yellow, and reptile-like. The action figure counterpart had the ability to spray acid from her wrists, but this function was deemed unnecessary for your bigger body self. The Beware Monsters toy line was especially liked by teenage boys. Its wire design over the years had been upgraded to be ever so slightly more slender, to appeal to their hormonal side. Safe to say, this more attractive redesign was the one given to you. As a bigger bodies, you acquired wetness, while your toy was meant to be a reptilian humanoid. You were amphibious, requiring your body to be moist at all times or risk your skin becoming too dry and tear. This specific design flaw had been intended to make you more submissive, as outbursts would lead to a dry cell, and quite intense pain as a result of that. You slowly were retold the ability to speak. They had problems with correct grammar. As unfortunately, your lessons had to be cut short by a rather violent event. The Hour of Joy. As terrible as it was, you had been released in the process. And the doctor, as much as he tried to keep track of you, lost you as you vanished in the sewer system of the prison complex. What a shame, really. You had been a very fun side project. In the meantime, you were swimming through the waters of the factory. The sewage soon abandoned for the washrooms. It was an area in the prison complex where clothes were used to be washed. It had a lot of wash tubs and small pools used for hand washing, as well as countless washing machines. Of course, something like you would seek refuge here, where the water was warm and smelled of soap. For years you lived in solitude, feeding on cockroaches, rats, and the occasional toy that got lost. But since no one who entered your territory left alive, you were essentially kept unknown to the other toys. They just claimed that it was dangerous down there. And so, one day, Doey the Doughman had decided to put an end to the horrors and rumors of the Washrooms. Almost skeptically, he descended the metal stairs with his massive body, wobbling left to right.
It should be a crime to have a place as important as this only be accessible with stairs,
he complained, to humor his other personalities. Stopping at the lowest floor, where an open metal door led into a yawning abyss. The smell of soap, chlorine, and other chemicals was in the air. For a moment, he was a little worried. The right mix of chemicals could destroy his body's makeup and dissolve him. Perhaps this was a bad idea after all. No, he shook his head, sighed, and stepped forward. He had lost a few friends down here, and he needed to end this. Almost immediately as he stepped through the door, however, he noticed a rope that he had just stepped on. A moment later, something massive slammed into his dough-like body, smashing right through him, leaving a large, gaping hole in his chest. Confused, he stood there for a moment as he watched a washing machine attached to a thick rope swing back towards him. Just barely he managed to curl himself up into a ball.
Jeez, that wasn't nice,
he shouted as he rolled forward, reforming himself, feeling much thinner now.
Ugh, that hurt.
He stared at the trap that would have killed a lesser toy instantly, not noticing the movements that occurred in the pool next to him. You are now on the prowl.
Ugh.
Doey took off his hat to scratch his scalp.
Oh, let's see. Who is this trap maker?
He turned around, waddling deeper into the washrooms. The place looked abandoned. It was dirty, grimy even. The floor, walls, and ceilings were tiled in white ceramic squares. They were covered in blood and other residues and even some algae patches. The ceiling had been partially caved in, spreading rubble around everywhere. And the pools reeked of old washing machine water.
Hello?
Doey's voice echoed.
My name is Doey. Oh, hello, Doey,
answered the Doughman to his own echo.
My name is Doey. Nice to meet you.
He stopped, hearing a noise. It was the quick pitter-patter of naked feet off the ground. Quickly he turned towards the noise, only to be met by nothing. Ghosts? He thought for a moment. No. Everything in the factory was explainable. There was nothing supernatural down here. And so curiously he approached the nearby pool. Looking into the green, murky water, he tilted his head. And for a moment, all three of his hearts stopped. There, just barely could make out a face staring right back at him in the liquid. He managed to not change his expression. Turning around, he simply exhaled, placing a hand on his chest. The thing in the pool had blinked. It was alive. Most definitely a toy that inhabited this place. He wondered what would have happened had he reacted in a more obvious manner. It probably would have jumped out immediately and attacked. But just as he took another step away, to get himself more breathing room to think about his approach of this delicate manner, his foot stepped on another trap. A crude bear trap made out of metal had snapped around his knee, severing the dough.
Whoa!
Doey fell backwards, holding up his shortened foot stump.
If this keeps going, there will be no dough left of me.
he complained as he watched his foot turn into useless blue sludge. He sighed, used his inner mastery to grow his foot, but just as he was about to get up, he felt 2 ice-cold hands clasp around his head. He deadpanned for a moment as he could feel his neck be stretched by a powerful force. But you stopped your attack, as you realized that his head didn't come off. No, it's okay. His massive body stood up and approached you, while one of his fingers was raised like a teacher about to deal with a rowdy student. Confused, you looked at the head in your hands. Doey was smiling at you.
Hey there, I'm Doey.
Your eyes widened in horror as you jumped into the water. No food had done this before. No food had ever talked to you like this. Quickly putting his head back in place, Doey placed both hands on his hips.
Well now, at least I know who is behind the disappearances. Did you build these fine traps, young lady?
The upper half of your head curiously poked out of the water as he stared at the The upper half of your head curiously poked out of the water as you stared at the doorman, as he stretched out his hand in a gesture of friendship. After all, making traps meant that you weren't feral. Perhaps non-verbal, he wondered. But non-feral toys were potential friends.
I come from a safe place. We could help each other. And maybe you would stop attacking my other friends.
Doey didn't know it, but it was all thanks to the work the doctor did before the hour of joy that you understood the words the doorman was saying. And was the first kind voice you heard in a very long time. Your eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Doey hesitated. Only for his eyes to widen as he watched your arms emerge out of the water, without making a sound or even rippling it. It was as if you were the water itself. Gracefully, you lifted yourself out of the liquid, setting your feet on the ground, body glistening in the weak light. You're dressed in a wet brown burlap sack that just barely reached down to your groin. You were a little hunched over as well. Your hair, heavy from the water, hung down your head like a sheet. You're breathing out of your mouth as you didn't have a nose, revealing sharp teeth. Neat. You slapped your stomach. Food. Doey's dumbfounded face turned into a gentle smile.
If you promise to be nice, we have food.
And so, grunting, in affirmation, you began following the doorman. Everything seemed fine until you reached the upper prison complex.
Don't worry, the doctor won't hurt you as long as I'm here. He's much more interested in my capture than anyone else's. Well, except for Poppy.
The word doctor made your fin-shaped ears perk up, but you just narrowed your eyes in response, choosing to be quiet. You trotted behind Doey through dry and broken hallways until he pushed you backwards.
Careful there.
He then pointed at a camera that turned left or right just above a broken gate.
Don't want him to see us now.
But in reality, it was already too late. The doctor had mobilized an automaton, and as you and the doorman snuck around the cameras, he couldn't help but chuckle to himself. You were falling right into his trap. There, in a long, dark hallway, stood the automaton. There was no other way out here.
Doctor!
Shouted Doey immediately, stepping before you, spraying out his arms. The eye on the automaton focused on Doey. But then, he said something that Doey did not see coming at all.
Oh, Fowler.
You stepped around Doey. Doctor. Shocked, Doey looked at you, and then the automaton. The machine reached out its hand.
I've been looking all over for you. Why did you leave me?
His voice. As if in trance, you stepped forward. You haven't heard that voice in so long.
Doey, thank you for bringing her back to me. I lost her during the hour of joy.
Quickly, Doey huddled forward, placing both hands on your shoulders, forcing you to stop. Oh, no. Fowler, was it? You turned your head to look at him. Don't listen to him. He's a monster.
I am a monster? Yeah, right. I'm sure I'm more human than you ever will be.
A picture of the doctor appeared on the automaton, causing you to take another step forward. Don't be fooled! You shook in place. The doorman's strength was holding you back. Doctor is and you croaked. Angrily, Doey stared at the automaton. The doctor's smug human face still displayed on the screen.
What did you do to her?
The machine crossed its arms.
I taught her to speak. I dressed her. I was practically family to her.
Doey's eyes widened with horror as he realized he had trained you like Yarnaby to be his slave. Quickly, he stepped around you, building himself up as big as possible.
Listen, Fowler, listen. The doctor is just the minion of the prototype, and the prototype is the reason we're in this mess to begin with. Please, listen to me.
Fowler,
came the doctor's voice from behind Doey.
Shut up!
he's trying to keep us separate.
Your eyes stared up at Doey.
Do you want to be alone again, without your beloved doctor, without my guidance, without my love?
The hour of joy happened 8 years ago. Don't listen to him. I mean, you were right there, in the basement. All you had to do was walk down the stairs.
Kill him.
Without hesitation, you headbutted the doorman, causing him to fall on his behind.
Ouch!
Flailing wildly, screaming like a banshee, you jumped on top of Doey, your hands tearing into his mass, ripping out chunks, making him groan in pain as his body was thrown left and right. Still, though, he didn't have the heart to hurt you. You were simply brainwashed. He allowed you to tear into his body to a certain point.
Isn't that adorable?
The automaton stepped forward, hands behind his back as he taunted Doey.
You thought you made a little friend here, didn't you?
The machine leaned forward towards Doey's face.
Who knew all I needed was a pretty little thing like Fowler here?
Doey looked at you. He had started biting and thrashing. The pain was becoming a little much. And so, without the machine, or you for that matter, noticing, his body began to morph, little tendrils that wrapped around your ankles.
Oh, well, you know, Doc,
He grunted angrily.
I just like devouring pretty little things.
With a quick motion, his body clasped around you like a Venus flytrap. Shocked, the doctor's automaton took a step back.
What the?
Your arm was still sticking out of Doey's stomach. It was turned into a fist as it tried to punch him. But he was too strong. His mass was pressing down you, shifting you inside of him, covering you in oily residue while it tried to enter and envelop every crevice of your body. It was a slimy, disgusting feeling. It felt warm and crushing to be inside his gut. Doey burped.
Oh, wow. That tasted soapy.
By the time Doey was back on his feet, however, The automaton had vanished.
Coward!
I just simply don't like wasting precious resources, Doey. Enjoy your meal. I have more important matters at hand.
You were regurgitated. At quite the velocity, too. With a wet, loud thud, you smashed against the concrete wall.
Oh boy.
Doey's voice came. He felt strained and exhausted. At the wall, you curled yourself up. You're covered in rainbow-colored slime that clung to your body like a second layer of skin.
Well, now. Sorry about that. But you wouldn't listen.
You started crying.
I apologize. Did I hurt you too much?
Doctor left. You had heard their exchange earlier. It broke your heart. Concerned, he approached you.
Fowler?
You raised your head a little. Your eyes were shifting left to right. You found yourself in an empty concrete room. The walls were covered in crude doorings. And on the wall to your right hung a large collection of photos depicting children, some crossed out, some not. Where is I? You asked, afraid.
Safe haven. The place I talked about. We have food here. Remember?
Your eyes narrowed suspiciously. Why not kill I? He sat down next to you with a quiet thud, his hands folded on his tummy. While through the door he had been blocking stood a bunch of other toys. Your toes curled.
Hey, guys, could you leave us alone? We can do introductions later, okay?
The toys nodded, and Mummy Longlegs extended her noodle arm to close the heavy metal door of the room. This had been an isolation room where a therapist and a toy, or orphan, had one-on-one conversations, but that was very long ago. The door could be opened on both sides with a metal wheel, and no sounds could come in or out. Doctor left, he sobbed.
He had left you a long time ago, said Doey.
Why? You raised your head to look at him.
Well, the doctor's pragmatic, even I can admit that. But he is pragmatic to a fault. There's no humanity left in that man. He probably just saw you as a tool to hurt me.
Hurt Doey? He hit the back of his head against the wall.
Well, I have a rule. I only eat feral toys. You are clearly not feral. I would need to break one of my very own super important rules. If I were to fight you, for real.
It's for self-control. Doctor gave purpose to
Fowler.
He gently placed a hand on your slimy back. Said nice things. Made feel good. Made feel like person. Doey thought for a moment. Perhaps that's why Yarnaby still followed doctors. Perhaps that's why Yarnaby still followed Dr. Sawyer.
Listen, the doctor isn't your father.
He probably shouldn't have said that. Hearing that last word. Your eyes flared up at the word. Your eyes flared up at it. Concerned, Doey lifted his arm from you. Your eyes were twitching, your body shaking. Images flashed before your eyes that you couldn't control. Placing both hands on your face, you screamed, "Fire! Fire! Fire!" Your breakdown lasted for 10 minutes. And upon waking from the haze, you found yourself lying on your back, breathing heavily.
Oh dear,
came Doey's voice. What had happened? It sounded like he was coming from behind you. You rolled on your side, quickly noticing that the floor had taken on a familiar blue color. Doey had made his body take up the floor of the room so you wouldn't hurt yourself. His arms were gently wrapped around you. What happened? Brain pictures, you said as you pointed at your head.
I think you had a little memory flashback there. Getting your memories back down here is never nice. Remembering who you were, what happened to you, must be terrible.
Your muscles relaxed. You liked feeling him hug you. It was much more warm than the doctor's touches. His were always calculated for efficiency, as to be as brief as possible, while still comforting, specifically calculated. It was strange to think about. Meanwhile, Doey's touches were tighter, clumsy, emotional.
Fowler, I'll never let you be manipulated by him again. Got it?
Manipulated? Tell I the explanation. You didn't know the word.
To manipulate, to handle or control or influence in a bad way.
Is Doey father?
Oh, I mean, we are at that age, aren't we, guys? But no. I am your friend.
You hummed, closing your eyes for a moment, before rolling around in his arms until you lied on top of him, chest first, propping yourself up with your own hands to look at the smiley face of his as it was stretched over the floor. Without warning, you upped your cheek into him. Thank Doey, comfort, You inhaled through your mouth, your lips still shaking, and then you kissed him. Gently, softly. His fingers wiggled in surprise.
Fowler, what is this about?
Show appreciation. You tried to purr, but the word was quite difficult. Doey's fingers crooked over your slimy back. It did feel good, but you didn't like the implication of this behavior. This clearly was something that you had to have learned from somewhere. Still, though, he returned your kiss, tightening his embrace. His mass slowly creeping up your body, but not like before, where it felt like a prison. This was more like a warm blanket. And it felt as if multiple welcoming hands were brushing over your body. You could feel your body shudder with excitement, your fingers digging into his mass without hurting him this time. You enjoyed your lecherous touches, and you enjoyed the feeling of his mass creeping its way under your burlap sack. Your heartbeat increased, and sweat droplets began to appear on your forehead. And then he completely enveloped you in a cocoon of warm, soft dough, and you gasped as he began exploring your deeper crevices. Hey, thank you so much for watching the video until the very end. Prove you have reached this point by writing banana bread down in the comments below. But before we end the video right here, I would like to shout out all of my wonderful channel members, especially my darling stewards. We have Jaws, Melufia, Mexicat, Alison Watkins, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, Hella, Anonymous Weep, and Nicodemus D. Thank you very much for your generous donations. And here are all my other channel members. I'd just like to remind you that all comments made by channel members will be turned into a music video by the end of the month. So help and add to the lyrics, won't you? Thank you for your support, and thank you for watching. I'm very grateful for you to watching until the very end. Goodbye.